Hi everyone, really sorry about the delay getting started today. I'm Anna and we're live with Cycling UK as part of the Women's Festival of Cycling. And we just had a little bit of tech issues getting started there, which is pretty much the problem with life these days, isn't it? Everything's gone online, for everyone struggling to come to grips with all the different formats and different things that we can use. But the good thing is we've got all our guests, they're here and they're ready to talk, and they've got some great pieces of advice and stories and anecdotes and things to talk about. Hi Jinxie, thanks for your comments. Anybody else who's watching and wants to say hello, please do in the live comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear also why you're watching today's episode, because it's quite a personal one. I imagine it's going to touch many people, the people that are choosing to tune in and watch this stream. So please do get in touch and share your stories as well. To give you a little bit of an overview of what we're doing today, it's all part of the Women's Festival of Cycling, as you can see in the little logo up there. And that's a 3-week online festival. It would normally be held in real life, but obviously due to COVID and all that, we're doing things online. 3 weeks of tips, advice, amazing stories, amazing shows. So keep an eye on our website, Cycling UK, to see what is going on. We are a charity, so Cycling UK's objectives are to get more people cycling safely, easily and enjoyably, campaigning for loads of really important things. Like during COVID, they're getting NHS health workers free membership, campaigning for safer roads, safer streets, temporary infrastructure and things like that. So fantastic charity. Obviously, putting on events like this comes with a little bit of a cost. So if you're thinking about joining us, we'd love that. That would be well cool. You can join us. We're offering a special membership deal throughout the Women's Festival of Cycling as well, where you can join for £15 for 6 months. And it's not just the feel-good factor that you'll get knowing that you're supporting cycling. You'll also get insurance for when you're out on your bike, loads of tips and advice, and discounts at loads of bike shops, and it's really worth it. So join. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about what we're talking about today, and it's the big C. We're talking about cancer and cycling, and there's a bit of a correlation between the two often, and we've got some brilliant guests, really glad to have sourced who we've sourced. So let's start welcoming them on the screen. We're going to start with Gemma.
Hi everybody.
And hi Gemma.
Hi,
so just in your own words, could you give us a little bit of a summary, maybe for about a minute, of who you are and why you're here today?
Yeah, no problem. This is never short for me, by the way. I feel like my life story is so long. So I'm Gemma Hillier Moses. I'm the founder of Move Charity, and we support people to move against cancer. And the charity has 3 really main objectives. One is our 5K Your Way Move Against Cancer initiative, which is a support group with a difference linked to Park Run, which I co-founded with the amazing Lucy Gossage. And then we have our online cancer rehab program for children and young people to support them when they are living with and beyond cancer. And we also help provide and work with other charities and organisations such as you guys to spread the word around the benefits of exercise, movement, physical activity when living with and beyond cancer. So the reason why I'm sat here or with you guys today is I was diagnosed with cancer myself at the age of 24 in 2012. So I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called Burkitt's lymphoma, and so went through that journey, and really during that time and the year that I was on treatment realised the importance both for physical and mental health, that being active and moving when you could, when you're living with and beyond cancer, the amazing benefits that gave you. So yeah, that's me in a snapshot. Very passionate about physical activity, exercise, and also to, in the cancer space to try and promote that and make people aware of those benefits.
Amazing. Well, we're delighted to have you. So thanks for giving up your time today. And next up on the screen, we've got Diane Jeggo. So an old friend of mine. Hiya. I'm going to move so that I'm not getting cut off by the logo there. So Diane, again, same sort of thing. Why don't you tell us why you're joining us today?
Okay, well, firstly, thanks for having me on today. So I'm an ex-regional bank manager who turned into an event promoter, a compere. I do various bits of promo and stuff as well. Anything basically where I'm paid to talk, I love to do. But sort of my whole life switched after cancer. Sort of gave up the bank job and do lots of cycling related things, which I absolutely love with a passion. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2008. And the bank actually found it for me because I went for one of the health checks that you can have with some jobs. So it was a complete shock to me because I hadn't been ill. I had a mammogram as part of that health check, where they discovered my cancer. It's called Cedric. Then sort of here we are now. Sort of the story goes on.
Thank you. Well, thanks for that. And thanks for joining us. We'll be hearing more about your story and Cedric a little bit later on. And let's just introduce a very special one now. It's my mum. My mum's joining us on the screen. Geraldine Glowinski. It's really weird calling you Geraldine.
Hi.
So hi, we've got you on the screen because you're going through your cancer journey as we speak. So why don't you tell us, unless you've frozen? Oh, I think we might have. So this is where we're getting the tech issues. You've frozen again. So I'll just talk on my mum's behalf then for a second, see if we can get her back on the screen. But she is 17 weeks into her cancer treatment. She was diagnosed in December and then started her cancer treatment a few months back. And obviously it coincided with lockdown as well. So that's been quite an unusual situation for you to be in. But you were determined to keep cycling your bike before you even started your treatment, weren't you? So tell us a bit about your cycling background.
Well, I am surrounded by cyclists, and I was a late starter. And it's just been the best thing I've ever done, apart from having my family, of course. And I've done everything. I've done mountain biking, road riding, track, and it's been fantastic for social, fantastic for my head, fantastic for being fit and making lots of friends. It's
a huge part of your life. So when you got that cancer diagnosis, did you just immediately think, I don't want this to stop me from cycling? Or what were your thoughts there?
I didn't even think I would stop cycling. There was a guy that I used to go riding with who had prostate cancer, and I know that he used to ride to his milestones in his lycra. At least I don't do that. But he'd ride with his lycra to Marsden and have treatment, and in between he'd just ride with us all. We didn't think anything more of it. So to be fair, he was my inspiration. So as soon as I found out, I thought, until I lose my energy, I'm just going to keep doing it.
And Gemma, you were extremely sporty and athletic before you got your diagnosis at a pretty young age as well. So what was your mindset when you realised that you were going to be having to have treatment and how it would affect your sporting life?
Yeah, I think there's always a shock when you obviously get diagnosed and your world does get turned upside down completely. And I think initially you struggle to think about anything else that could happen in your life. But I think for me that I knew what sport and exercise made me feel before I was diagnosed cancer. So I knew it made me feel alive, like it gave me things to focus on. It gave me goals outside this everyday life. And so I knew that had to play a part in my journey with cancer. The issue was, from my perspective, was that there wasn't the information. I was diagnosed in 2012. So there wasn't the information or guidance or support there to empower me or enable me to know what I was doing and if it was okay and if it was, right for my treatment. So I had to use a lot of my own initiative. And actually, when I spent 6 weeks in an isolation unit in hospital as part of my chemotherapy routine. And after 6 weeks, I asked the consultant. So it wasn't my consultant, because my consultant is actually a trustee on the charity and is very passionate about exercise and cancer. But one of the guys who was on the ward round, and I said, can I go for a run? So slightly not cycling, but I'll tell you about the cycling in a minute. But can I go for a run when I get out of hospital? And he said, somebody who had the same type of cancer as you didn't do any exercise a year post chemotherapy. And I was thinking, a year? So I've got to basically sit on my arse and do nothing for a year and wait until everything just goes, I go through my treatment and then whatever happens. So then what you do when you don't get the right answer, you go and find somebody else who might tell you what you want. So I went to one of the nurses and I said, what do you think about this? I'm not sure I need to wait a year. And she just said, look, just go out for a walk. And again, it was that little bit of permission that I needed. But she said, go out for a walk and see what happens. So I got home, straight from the hospital. I put my running kit on. I'd lost all my hair, so I popped a baseball hat on. And I started out walking, and then I went for a 30-minute run, and I came back, and honestly, it was the most amazing feeling. Like I'd been sat on a hospital bed for 6 weeks, being injected with horrendous chemotherapy, and then to be able to be empowered to do that and take control of something was amazing. And I think, Geraldine, like what you said, like at that time, I didn't really have anyone around me who had been through cancer who I could use as inspiration and say, well, they went on their bike or they went for a run, so maybe I should try that. I didn't have that. And I think the more, now that I've been in this world for, you know, quite a long time with the charity and me personally, the stories that people tell each other and their experiences of how they've used exercise to empower them and how it makes them feel better physically and mentally when going through treatment and also beyond is so, so powerful. I think that the more we can share these stories, the more it might inspire one other person to go, actually, you know what, I've got chemotherapy today, but if I feel okay, I'm just going to go for a walk or I'm going to go for a cycle. So I do think, yeah, it's really important to keep sharing that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, you know, through initiatives like your charity and just generally, I think times are maybe changing a bit, that people are more accepting that, you know, like 100 years ago when people were pregnant, they were told to stay bedbound, and just that mentality of being able to do activity more and more. I think people are becoming more accepting of it in general, but also showing your faces and being visible is really, really important. Geraldine, you had another comment that you wanted to say on that. Yeah, go on. Go.
I think that the chemotherapy, it's the poisons and it's the medication going through your body. So I think that exercise helps it to go through quickly, evenly, and also it helps, I think, with the side effects, because of course you're naturally tired, naturally hungry. Even though your taste buds may change the food taste for a while, you are hungry, so you will eat. And in fact, I actually put on weight while on chemo rather than losing it. So I think that's the benefit as well, just letting it circulate around your body quickly and getting rid of all the impurities quickly as well.
That's how it feels. And Diane, yeah, I really wanted to come to you next, because you actually you weren't a cyclist before your therapy. So you came at this from a different angle, which I'm really interested to hear about how your mindset changed to start on taking on more sport.
Yeah, very much so. I was 40 at school, then sort of started working for the bank and my career took off. I was the regional manager. I was on a 400-mile commute to Birmingham every week. Long hours, you know how it is. And as I say, I had this health check that discovered my cancer. So it was a real shock because I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't felt a lump. And even when it was actually formally discovered, it was what they call non-palpable. So you couldn't feel it. So goodness knows what size it would have got to had I not been in that fortunate position to have my health check. But what I decided to do, I knew I had to get in a fitter position to fight cancer, to give myself a fighting chance. So what I decided to do, because I was having 25 fractions of radiotherapy. So radiotherapy fractions are the little snippets that you have, and it happened to be for me that it was 25. So I thought if I go on a turbo trainer every day that I was having my radiotherapy, so for those 25 days, that would be 12 and a half hours of exercise I would never have done. And I think it's really important to involve your clinicians, you know, your medical team with what your intentions are. As Gemma said, ask and try and get the right answer for you. And I asked my GP, I said, you know, this is what I'm planning to do. I want to get myself in a fit position. Can I do this? And he said, that's fine, but listen to your body, which I think is great advice for anybody recuperating. He said, you know, if you feel you can do it, do it. So I started going on my turbo trainer. I was married into a cycling family, big cycling background. My family, the Jeggos, put on the National Road Race Championships for 4 years back in the sort of 80s and 90s. My husband's always cycled, as has my father-in-law. And whilst I enjoyed it, I never did it. So this really was my kickstart. So I started doing radiotherapy. I have to say, I only got to day 19 and I was so tired that I couldn't swing my leg over the crossbar to go on my turbo. But for me, I think people like Geraldine, people like Gemma, and anyone who is suffering from some kind of chronic disease always recover better if they are fit to start with. And that's not a reason to start cycling, but I don't think that's rocket science. If you're intrinsically a fit person, you can, in terms of the treatment and everything, you will get on far better, recover far quicker. And I've got, so many examples, people like Geraldine who have been riding to their chemotherapy. I've got a great friend back where I live, Casey, who cycled throughout her cancer journey with me as well. So, I just think being fit, but cycling just does so much for you. So that's how I started. Couldn't even get sort of 4 miles down the road on the bike to start with. And now I'm at best, when I'm really super fit, 100-kilometre girl at best. You've seen me cycle, Annie, you know how I cycle.
That's amazing.
It is really amazing. And it's actually almost then using the cancer as a springboard to catapult you into becoming this sporty cyclist. So it almost wouldn't have happened if you hadn't had the negative cancer coming to your life. That news actually gave you like a positive, different way of life. And do you see that quite often in some of the patients that you come via for your charity, Gemma?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think it's a case of, once you discover the benefits of exercise, and even people that haven't been active before their treatment, they may, realise actually they need to start looking after themselves. And so especially our 5K Your Way groups and even on our Move Online programme, the changes that are made both physically and mentally, but having an element of control over your life when you're living with and beyond cancer. Because I think what happens when you're going through cancer treatment, and don't underestimate the knock-on effects a year on year afterwards. Like, I think people think, oh, you're in remission or you're all clear, and then everything's fine again. And really the mental, the long-term effects of cancer can carry on 5 to 10 years. But I think what Diane was saying as well, and Geraldine, around the evidence base around cancer and exercise. So that evidence base is now growing, and it's stronger than it ever has been. And actually, the Australian Oncology Association released in The Guardian last year around that actually it's actually unsafe to just sit still and do nothing anymore. So the evidence is saying you need to move when you're going through your treatment and beyond, because otherwise you're actually doing yourself, you're not doing yourself very well if you don't move. And I think that it comes under, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you're heading to one of the biggest journeys of your life in terms of what your body has to take and what your mind has to take. And it's like if you go and run a marathon, or if you go on a cycling trip where you're going for 100k cycle ride, you wouldn't go into that unprepared. You would prepare. And I think if you look at that same analogy around going into your cancer treatment, if you can get your body as strong as possible, but also, during your treatment, if you can keep moving, the evidence is there to say that moving more and doing exercise reduces the side effects of treatment, both short term and long term, reduces the risk of any other comorbidities. Like, just because you've had cancer doesn't mean that you're going to be immune to anything else in the future. And it also, helps your mental and physical well-being, as well as reduces cancer-related fatigue. And these benefits are wide known now. And there's more around, what can it do? There's certain research going on around tumours and reducing the growth. And that's all very, very detailed, and still small studies going on. But, they're saying, like, if exercise was a pill, every single one of us would take it. And I think the issue is that it's just a little bit harder to introduce into your life, and everybody needs a little push and a little bit of motivation. But actually, if you can start taking inspiration from other people and start integrating, whether it be cycling, running, walking, whatever it is so important in your cancer journey.
Yeah. And with you, bunch of women, I don't think motivation is really the problem here. It's more like getting permission, as you mentioned earlier on, Gemma. But I don't imagine it's always that easy, even if people start to understand the benefits of exercise and carrying on with their cycling, it's probably not, I can't imagine you're just going to be able to carry on as normal as if nothing's ever happened. And so, for an example, I just want to get one of these comments on the screen from Kate Brody. She said that she's just started chemo for breast cancer, and she's borrowed an e-bike to go down for the PICC line insertion. And then on the day, and she wrote down her Cycle UK shirt, brilliant. But she got a lift back afterwards. She wants to keep moving, but doesn't want to lose all her fitness. And I'm really glad that comment's come up, because it's probably quite realistic as well, isn't it? That you're not always going to have days where you're having chemotherapy, you know, you've got cancer in your body, you've got all these chemicals in your body, you're probably quite worried and sad and anxious. So how do you deal with it on those days where it doesn't feel like it's going to work? Just put your hands up if anyone's really got a feeling they want to say something. Probably all of you. So just go around the top, guys. Gemma, you first.
So I was going to say absolutely, and I think it's, you know, making sure that people are aware of the realities of integrating exercise when you're going through your cancer treatment. From a personal perspective, especially, like I had weeks on end where I couldn't even get out of bed. I was swollen. I was so sick and tired. So I would go literally like 2-3 weeks without actually moving, other than to go up and downstairs, and even things like diet, like, you know, your chemo mouth and I was healthy as anything, but I drank Dr. Pepper every day and Doritos.
What's chemo mouth?
So when you get horrific taste of metallic-y taste in your mouth, and, you know, I'm quite far on now, so I can't really remember the feel and the taste, but it's horrific. Nothing just tastes right. So Dr. Pepper every day and Doritos every day, even though I came from eating very healthily, got me through that. So the reality of it isn't like, I'm going through chemo, I jump out of bed and go, woo, I'm ready to go and exercise. Like that, you know, there's some very, very difficult times. And also mentally, it's so tough. Like, you know, you go into sometimes you're going into a dark place. And I think it's about taking one step at a time, and more when you can do something, but let your body also tell you that, you know what, I need to lie all day and not do anything today, because don't be hard on yourself, because you are more tired. Like, your body is going through a lot and it's going to take a lot. But when you can do something and you feel like you can, then that's the time to do something. And you can gradually build from there. But I think there's a lot more advice and support around exercise and cancer now, like cancer rehab instructors. Like, I'm one of them myself. And there's charities and there's private organisations to help you also integrate it into your life with being aware of what treatment you're going through as well.
Excellent. And Diane, do you want to echo those thoughts, or is there anything else that you have to add?
Yeah, I mean, my cancer, I was very blessed, because, as I say, Cedric was found very early. So I only had a lumpectomy, radiotherapy.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 sec, Diane? Why Cedric?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, somebody told me you have to visualise your lump. You have to make it an enemy that you are going to battle against. And I thought, right, if it's something like that, then it's got to be a wimpy name. So apologies to all the Cedrics out there. But I just thought it sounded super wimpy and something that I could overcome. So, and I didn't like saying cancer as well. So, you know, Cedric was my lump, and I was going to kick Cedric's ass. So that's why. But yeah, for me, I didn't, luckily, because it was found so early, I didn't have to have sort of very invasive lots of treatment, really. So I only had a lumpectomy, radiotherapy, and 10 years of tamoxifen afterwards, which I've now finished. But sort of talking about doing things when you feel good, I'm going to bring my father-in-law in, Michael Jeggo, who's sadly no longer with us. He had multiple myeloma, which is cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow. So obviously that's all throughout. It is a blood cancer. It's quite another rare one. And he was a lifelong cyclist and intrinsically a very fit man. So was able to have all sorts of treatments that technically, because of his age, he shouldn't have had. He had an autologous, probably said that wrong, stem cell transfer, which is his own stem cells taken out, sort of cleaned up and given back. And technically he was too old. But because he was such a fit cyclist, he was able to have that. So that was another line of treatment that was open and accessible to him because of his intrinsic levels of fitness. But with Dad, we used to go cycling together. We used to call ourselves the CSRC, which is the Cancer Survivors Road Club. And we would go off cycling. And I was really terrified I'd knock him off because it's cancer of the bone marrow cells. You can have problems with your bones breaking. So I was absolutely terrified. And again, he sought advice from his oncologist. He said, But being as you've been a lifelong cyclist, if it's good for your mental health, then go and do it. But people used to say about Dad, oh, he always looks so brilliant, but you wouldn't see Dad out when he wasn't feeling good. He'd take a rest and what have you, and have some downtime. But on the days he was feeling good, he'd be out on the bike, he'd be taking mother-in-law out, and he looked so great and blah, blah, blah. But he did also have down days as well. And I think it's important, as I said originally, to listen to your body and to kind of do things when you're on your game.
Yeah, but you also you set yourself some goals. So that was riding an hour or half an hour of turbo for every day that you did your treatment. And I've just seen this from Sarah Wilden. She says that during her cancer treatment, I set myself a goal to cycle the 10 miles to hospital each day. So that's kind of what you're doing as well, Geraldine. You've set yourself a goal of at least getting there. Do you think that helps, having a goal? And if you're feeling that your body's not up to it, how do you then cope mentally, being like, oh, I set myself a goal of doing my half an hour of turbo, but actually I'm too tired to even lift my leg over the top tube, as you said. So if you're not feeling great, but you've set yourself a goal, do you think there's like a balancing act somewhere where there's like motivation on one side, which is setting the goal, I'm going to keep cycling to this pace or this amount of times, versus, oh, damn, I set that goal, but actually I don't feel like I can?
Well, no, not really. I think that because I knew mine was a 6 to 8 mile ride to Marsden, I knew that it wasn't going to be too strenuous. And very often, like normal, I'd start off and not perhaps feeling as though I wanted to do it. And by the time I got to the hospital, I just felt fine, and I felt energized, and I didn't feel ill going in. I'd say energized. And then the staff would say, did you cycle in? And that would really give me a boost. And then quite a few of the nurses would then say, oh, I should really cycle into work. I only live in Sutton, like 3 miles away, and things like that. So, so it was very invigorating, both mentally and to know that perhaps inspired a few people to get back on their bike as well.
Yeah, so even when you didn't feel like it, once you got out and did it, you felt better?
It's just the usual. Obviously, if you feel absolutely shattered, well, in fact, once I just got my husband to collect me back from the hospital because I did feel tired, and obviously I'm not going to push myself against any limits. But apart from that, I found that, as I say, if you don't feel like getting on your bike and then you feel better, and that's exactly the same.
And what's been the reaction? You just mentioned about staff reactions there. So amongst the doctors and the patients, I'd love to hear whether things have changed a little bit from when Gemma and Diane got their diagnoses. What's it like within that sphere inside the hospital walls? What are people saying?
Well, they kind of double take and they see you clip-clopping in your cycle shoes, and then quizzical look. Did you cycle? And then, where did you cycle from? And then their reaction is, wow, you cycled 8 miles. And I'm thinking, oh, goodness. Nothing. So, but it did, you think, oh, well, I must try that. I've got a bike in the garage. So, yeah, hopefully. But I was quite surprised at one young man, mentioning no names, but he was a male nurse, and he literally lived 3 miles away and got into his car every morning, 9 to 5, hit past several schools, so he was right in the traffic jam, and it would take him for 3 miles, at least half an hour. I came through the path that he would have had to come through, bridle path, less than 15 minutes on my bike.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is the cancer patients showing the non-cancer people how it's done.
Yeah. It is interesting that as well, because I think health professionals have not everybody. You get a lot of health professionals that are active and moving, but they are the ones that are likely to talk to you about exercise. But there's actually a lot of health professionals who do have negative experiences with exercise, like you say, and aren't as active as they probably should be. And then don't necessarily talk to that about patients, and don't understand that, it could be a really, really good positive thing. And I think that's what we're trying to do with our 5K Away Move Against Cancer groups, is actually to encourage healthcare professionals to come down, to also increase their activity levels, and then see what patients are experiencing, so that you can see that somebody going through cancer is walking or running a 5K, and what that means to them, and how it's, you know, we've had patients run a 5K away with their oncologist consultant, and just being, or at the end, the patient's like, it's amazing, I got to run with my consultant. This, you know, there's more to me than just cancer. So I think that's the beauty of exercise. It's like, yeah, there is more to you than cancer. And actually, as a health professional, you can then see that within when you do that sort of thing with patients.
Yeah. And Diane?
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the physical benefits of cycling and exercise in general, but it's also, I found it amazing for my headspace as well. I mean, for me, it was a real bomb dropping, because as I say, I didn't even know Cedric was lurking there in the background. I had no symptoms or anything. So to be told that, yes, you've got cancer, it's like this bomb going off, and the shrapnel affects all your family and everything as well, because it's not just about you as an individual, it's about your partner, your friends, your family, and how it affects them, and how they then, interact with you, etc., etc. So to be able to go off on the bike, fresh air, green spaces, you kind of forget about, well, this is me anyway, you forget about any worries, you go out with friends. It's just so brilliant cycling, whether you're a cancer survivor, thriver, whatever. Just so amazing for your headspace and just mental health in general, as well as all the amazing physical benefits that it gives you, that Gemma talked about.
Excellent. Yeah, and Geraldine, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I would just like to agree with Diane by getting out. Although I started my chemo 2 weeks before lockdown, and I've only finished my last chemo yesterday. And I couldn't share my riding with my friends, and people obviously stay away from me to a certain extent. So I would say for nearly 4 months now, apart from going out with very limited people, like my husband, my son, or friends who also have been isolating and not mixing, so it's been a very strange experience for me, but I still go out, and I've done some wonderful solo rides, and as you say, it gives headspace. I've gone out mountain biking and road riding, and when I'm by myself, I don't feel any pressure, and I've discovered new roads, and I've discovered new bridle paths, and it's just been superb, really very relaxing coming back.
Yeah. Because I mean, you couldn't make that timing up, to be honest. It's literally, you started that chemo at the time that there was a global pandemic. It's pretty isolating. But do you find that because you had that community of cyclists before you went into your chemo, and everybody's aware that you are definitely in the vulnerable sector, so they need to be extra cautious about social distancing, but that community from pre-cancer, are they still around, in touch, helping you keep your spirits up?
I've just, yes, they've always been fantastic. I think because we all can appreciate the we get from the social side, and we're all aware of that they make the extra effort to contact me, phone, Facebook, message. It's just really good. And luckily, out my front garden is my, you can sit in quite easily and have teas and coffees at distance. So
people just pop in after their rides.
Yeah, very much. I've had to do a lot more baking and cooking than I ordinarily.
It's the cafe stop.
The cafe stop.
Yeah. But the other good thing about having this in COVID is that everybody had a bad hair day. So, everybody else's hair was going wild, mine was getting thinner, but, we actually all had very bad hair days. So.
It looks fabulous with that as well, the headband on. Looks lovely.
It does. The fringe is clinging on. It's doing so well. Clinging on there.
So there are definite benefits because after this now, I'm going to decide what new hairstyle I'm going to have, what colour I'm going to have. Do I colour it? Do I not colour it? So, it's an adventure.
Exciting new starts. And did you find that you got a community through cycling during your treatment, Diane? So you started cycling through it? Because I know that there's a lot of support networks for cancer patients where you can talk to other cancer patients. But did you find a separate group through cycling?
I knew a lot of cyclists because my husband was so heavily involved with cycling anyway. So whilst I didn't go cycling, I had a lot of cycling friends. But the community is brilliant. It's so supportive. And I've since met lots of other cancer survivors who do cycle. In fact, like you've stalked people to ride with. I've stalked cycling cancer survivors and I said, hi, our paths must have crossed, da-di-da. So Nadji Butler's a case in point, who was one of the 100 women in cycling in 2018. I stalked her. She does all sorts of charity stuff at Women v Cancer, which is where she raises money for all the women's cancer, so cervical, ovarian and breast cancer. So I made new friends as well, which is kind of a really random benefit, but just brilliant at the same time. And the cycling community has been really good. I mentioned my friend Casey before. She used to come out with the club. People used to help her. She'd say, oh, I'm going to slow you down. People got off and walked up hills with her when she's a super cyclist, but obviously while she was going through chemo, she was a little bit slower than normal. I do find the cycling community really brilliant in terms of the support and the friendship it gives out. Most of my friends are now cycling buddies, really.
Yeah. And do you find the same sort of thing through your work, Gemma? It's more about running, but the fact that you've got activity in common and you're doing that in common, you're not just sitting there talking about your worries about cancer, you're actually doing something together.
Absolutely. And I think, our community isn't just running, it's all everyone does so many different types. So we have people who run, walk, cycle, swim, just do the exercise for fun, some that do it for competition. And like you say, I think it's what we find from our support groups, because they are active support groups, is that people go back and they don't, it's not like everyone's chatting about their cancer. If you want to bring it up, that's fine. But it's like, that everyone you're with understands, but actually you have, like we're saying, you're more than just cancer. So you have a lot of other conversations, but meet people who have been through similar situations to you, which is wonderful, really. So I think, you can't, this support that you get from like-minded people who have similar experiences to you is just so powerful. And like we said at the beginning, very inspiring. To help you to just think a little bit differently about your cancer journey and maybe take steps of doing a little bit more cycling or exercise than you perhaps would have done if you hadn't have got this support group or these people around you. So that's why things like these question and answers are so important, because you might have one person listening who thinks when you have cancer, you just have to sit still and not doing anything. Whereas actually you've got some incredible stories here. And it's so, there are dark times, but the positivity that I can hear in both your voices around talking about what it makes you feel is just so powerful.
Yeah. And can I just ask a quick question? Do you connect much with other cancer support groups or with the hospitals themselves? Because I know that my mum was very impressed with the Maggie Centre, which is a cancer centre nearby, which offers loads of sort of holistic treatments, massage and yoga and things like that. And she's interested in perhaps talking to them in the future about introducing a cycle sector. So I wonder how your charity connects with these sorts of initiatives.
Yeah, so we're really big as a charity, myself and Lucy, around promoting and integrating other support services around in our space, which is cancer and exercise, because it is, I think, perhaps in the past, charities have become very protect their own and less around supporting and resharing and all of that sort of thing. So we're really trying to advocate that and say, we're trying to share where there are other support groups. So, and we kind of, so we work with some of the Maggie centres. We work directly with hospitals. So every one of our 5K away groups is linked to a hospital. We have 57 5K away groups across the UK and Ireland, and eventually we want them to be linked to every single cancer centre in the UK and Ireland. So there is still a lot of work to do, so that, for example, if I was diagnosed with cancer and I wanted to know what support group was available for my interest, so it might be cycling, it might be walking, it might be, you know, like you say, yoga, there should really be somewhere we can go and have a look and say, you know, this is the options available. So we are trying to really push that through the work that we do. So we love working with other organisations and charities and spreading the word and sharing the love, really.
Amazing. Well, look, maybe we've done a little bit of a networking hookup.
Yeah.
This is who you need to talk to, Mum.
Yeah, definitely.
She was saying you want to bring more cycling into the support network that's really helped her. So that'd be really cool.
And it sounds like as well, from I'm looking at some of the comments on Facebook, that there's a huge demand for it in cycling. Like, people are having their own little communities around cycling and cancer. But it sounds like there's a big demand, and it's helped so many people. And the other thing about cycling as well, it is low impact in terms of, you know, that benefit of when you are going through treatment and you might have different side effects. It's probably it's a really good option to have as well, as a form of exercise. So definitely some scope there to move that forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the low impact, because it is quite a unique thing to cycling and swimming a little bit as well. Right, yeah. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. If you guys want to have a little look through the comments, there's been some really cool ones. I've brought some up already. But if you want to have a look through some of the live comments and if choose it on the screen, I'm going to do that for Geraldine because I know she can't see it on her phone. To pick one out, if you feel like it's a question that hasn't been answered, or just it's a great story that you'd love to share, have a little quick look through, and then when you're ready, we'll share it on the screen. Diane, have you picked anything that caught your eye?
Yeah, just like to say well done to Kate Brody. She says, when I walk into the hospital with my cycle helmet, they mistake me for a staff member. So that's so cool. So well done, Kate, on your cancer journey. Long may you keep cycling and enjoying it and being mistaken for a member of staff.
Awesome. And Gemma there, which one would you like to pick out?
Yes, I think I can't see them all for some reason, but Carolyn said that she's only just seen this and logged on. What a great topic. Cycling helped me to recover my health after cancer and really changed my life. This inspired me to set up a women's cycling group, joyriderslondon.org, partly to give me back to all the amazing women who supported me during my treatment and recovery, and subsequently got hundreds of women from Muslim and ethnic minority cycling and changed their lives too. We went on to become London Sports Club of the Year 2019 and enjoyed amazing success. That's incredible, Carolyn. Yeah, I picked a good one there. Wow. That gave me goosepimples reading that. So thank you for sharing.
Wow, that is absolutely fantastic. Some great stories there. And I'm just going to pick out this one from Marion Ferrugia. I used to find cycling to my I can't even say the word, appointments a big help, especially after, and my consultant used to cycle to work as well, and we sometimes met on the road. So I picked this one out for you, Geraldine, because you might want to talk about some of you mentioned one of the male nurses there maybe wanted to start cycling because he lived so close. Do you reckon that any of your doctors would be keen to cycle with you, your consultants? Oh, we lost her. Oh, well, just at that moment. But that's a great comment, so thanks for that.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, we've lost you for a bit. Anyway, we're gonna wind this up there. It's been really, really nice talking to you.
I'm sorry, I think the mic's gone and I'm having trouble.
That's fine. Okay, cool. So don't worry about that. But we've got the main bulk that we needed from you. It's great stories. Really glad that we can have you on screen. Gemma, you've been brilliant. If anyone wants to find out more about Move Charity, they can get in touch. I don't know if there's anything that you just feel like maybe might have been lacking that you'd like to add before we close.
No, I think that's all brilliant. I think just keep inspiring each other, keep sharing these incredible stories, and I will, even if it just helps one person, they're so powerful. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And Diane, thank you as well. Anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, just thank you, and thanks Cycling UK for this brilliant series. I know this is the last one, but I've been watching all of them, and I believe you can catch up on them as well. So if you haven't seen the others, there's so many different varied subjects, particularly relevant to ladies. So if you haven't seen them, go back and carry on. And just one more thing from me. People quite often ask me, oh, you know, my friend's been diagnosed with cancer, what can I do for them? Just flick them a random text or random message when they're not expecting it, and to get something on your phone, say, oh, hey, I'm thinking of you, keep it going. It kind of lifts you. So just flick them an odd message and ask them how they want to be treated as well. Because I'm sure, like these other ladies, Gemma and Geraldine, we didn't want to be wrapped up in cotton wool. We just wanted to carry on very much as normal. But not everybody's like that. So ask your friends, if they've been diagnosed with cancer, how you can help them, how you can support them, what works for them, and flick them that random message, and I'm sure it will go down really well.
Oh, that's so cute. And final comment from you, Geraldine, now that we've got you back on the screen. Anything you want to add as we leave?
Just be positive, and treat every day as it comes, and just make the most of every day, regardless of cancer or life altogether. Just enjoy the experience, because to be honest, this hasn't only been a negative experience, it's been a very positive experience for me. And as I say, I've just had my last chemo, I've got this rage to go through, and yes, I'm quite positive about it. Never worried, actually. So that's it. Thanks.
I love how you got the one day in a time bit of advice in there. This was literally my advice as I was growing up. Every single time I had a problem, my mum would be like, one day at a time, Anna, one day at a time.
Sounds like you've got a great mum there.
I do. It was so lovely.
Didn't take any notice of me though, of course.
Thank you for being here, all of you. And Diane, thanks for doing my job for me at the end there. That was brilliant. This is the Bants and being. No, I'm stoked. That is excellent. I'm so glad that you've been tuning in. As Diane said, that is the last one in the series, but we do have some other bits and pieces through the Women's Festival of Cycling, including tonight we're going to be speaking to Olympians Eleanor Barker and Katie Archibald, because today would have been the day that they're having the opening ceremony in Rio. So instead, they're going to be joining us on the screens. Which
That's
is way
amazing.
better.
Yeah.
They're going to be joining us on UK Facebook Live. Woo! All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.